Well, hello again. Nice to meet you. Alright. You know that feeling you get when you're watching a film and you're kind of like, I don't know if I should love this because I know that everybody else loves it. Am I missing a major plot in the film? Am I the issue? You know that feeling? Well, that's the feeling I had when I first watched Pride and Prejudice. And I'll be honest, I did not go into it blind. I might have watched the wrong version, but I did read the book first. I am educated, okay? I read the book because it was assigned to my class. Then I watched the movie. We watched the newer one with Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley, yeah. Because that's the one that my teacher, because it was for a homework assignment, told me I should watch. She's like, go here, rent it, because of course I had to rent it. Anyway, my professor, she was just like, all those things. And I was like, okay. Read the book, watched the film, missed the plot apparently, because I don't like it. But that might just be me. So, we're gonna be cozy. Have me a nice cup of tea, oolong, dragon's eye tea, I believe. It's delicious. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. I have with me a nice slice of yellow cake. Because why not? If it looks like cornbread, it's not. It's not. Cake. Beautiful. I have my lip gloss today. Fruit fetish and strawberry melon. And all of my notes are on my phone. Easy. Anyway, are on my phone. Because I did not, when I was taking my notes, I was watching YouTube at the same time, just so I could, to refamiliarize myself with the characters. Because I want to do the best that I can when I tell you about my opinion, But I want to go into it with based off of facts and logic, and be like, okay, I don't remember this particular Bennett sister. Let me go back and watch a video that's like, oh, okay, this is the crossways, I did that because I want to be truthful. I don't want to be like, and Kitty, she fell in love with Mr. Darcy because I'm like, whoa. And everybody's going to be like, you are an idiot. I'm like, what? Anyway, off topic. But anyway, so, Pride and Prejudice. Massive fan base. People love it. From the moment that Jane Austen came out with the film to now. This is my cover. It's like a giant cover because I want to be warm. Anyway, till now, people are obsessed with the film. And I would say rightfully so. I don't hate the books of Jane Austen. I don't dislike the movie that much. I just thought I missed the plot. And I'm pretty sure that most people would agree with me. Because my older sister, she loves Pride and Prejudice. Like, eats it up. Put it on a plate, serve it to her for dinner. She will eat it up, So I was like, okay. It's me. At this point, it is me. Because it is. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. The entire reason why I don't like the movie and the book, is just simply because I have beef with a lot of things. That's it. Okay? So, first thing to say about this. First thing. we love when we see people suffer. Like, that's the thing that they... Okay, we love a good suffering main character. And Elizabeth Bennet is just the perfect ounce of suffering with richness, with beauty, with wit and sarcasm that is just like, this is the most brilliant main lead you could ever write. And I think that's why so many people love her. And I say, fair enough. I'll get to my reasoning later. That's not really important right now. Jane Austen, I would say, is a sarcastic writer, in my opinion, based off of the works that I have read and watched. Okay, based on like adaptations. Adaptations you can't base the off of, like, you can't hook an adaptation to the author that much because it's not their work. That's why it's an adaptation. Okay, but that's a topic for another day. Adaptations. I was sitting there and reading, and I was like, you I don't know if I should take you serious in this moment, or if I should take this with a grain of salt because you're being sarcastic. It's like, Jane, what are you saying? Jane Austen is amazing. Like, she's like, her history, amazing. Let me just say this before I go on. If you're a writer and you're pretty popular in your time, let me say, if you're a writer and you're pretty popular in your time, and then you are about to kick the bucket, please, for the love of everything good in this world, do not tell your siblings to burn your letters. Like, how are we supposed to know more about you if everything we know about you is being burnt in a fireplace the moment you die? Walk me through that. Walk me through that, because I'm confused. Because I'm pretty sure everybody else is confused. Because I'm like, what? Okay. Anyway, Jane Austen, she's a sarcastic author. She's a woman who stood out in her time, rightfully so, because she decided to take a different path. And I think that if you have read any of her books and you have learned a little bit about her own personal history from the little bit that we know, I think that you could see a bit of herself in every character. And I think that's why it makes her book so good, is because we can connect. Her characters feel so lifelike, so real. Like, when you read Elizabeth Bennet, you feel like you're reading about somebody you knew. Like, oh yeah, that was the girl in the 5th grade who I remember was like blah 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 blah, and then she looked just like, and then she had 3 other sisters, and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, I remember Elizabeth Bennet so well. I went to school with her. I went to college with her. I went to work. My first job, it was with Elizabeth Bennet. Like, yeah, she, I remember her. That's why I feel like we can connect with Elizabeth Bennet so well. Secondly, we love when a main character is kind of wishy-washy, but in a real manner. When a character is wishy-washy, but it's like so unrealistically wishy-washy, nobody really cares about it. But when a character is like Elizabeth Bennet, it's like, the rich, who cares for the rich? And then she's like, oh, well, maybe the rich are okay. Then she's like, oh, the rich. And then she's like, oh, well, I mean, this guy, he's rich, but I mean, he's fine, I guess. And he's like, no, I like the poor dude who's like, whatever. And it was like, what? It's like, okay. But it's more realistic because people change their mind all the time. So it's just like, whoa, okay. Moving on. And then you have Mr. Darcy, whatever his name is, Fred, whatever his first name was. Everybody just calls him Mr. Darcy, so why would I be the weird guy to be like, oh yeah, his name is actually whatever, and I'm gonna call him that because I don't like Mr. Darcy. I mean, I must look like I'm stupid, but I mean, we both know that I am. Anyway, and Mr. Darcy, he's kind of wishy-washy. He's just like, she's plain. She's tolerable, as he would say. You know, it's like, rude. First, rude. First, rude. You know, and then you have, and then he's like, well, I mean, I guess she's fine. She's pretty. No, actually, I'm in love with her. She should marry me. You don't want to marry me? Well, then, forget you. Please marry me. Please marry me. He's like, I'll pay. Please marry me. You know, that's Mr. Darcy. Another thing, I would say this, not just like in general, but also for just people. You know, I mean, I am saying this in general. People love to see a rich man chase a woman who's not interested in him. You know, because there's this misconception. I don't know what I just said. Misconception that all women are going to chase a rich man. That's a lie. Not all women are interested in chasing a rich man. For instance, me. I couldn't care less if you have a lot of money because I don't care about money. Right? Right. And then you have people like Liza who are like walking, talking misconceptions, and then you have people like Elizabeth who are on the opposite side of that whole Liza. Who's Liza, Sierra? Lydia. Ooh. Anyway, you have people who are like Lydia is like the walking, talking, and chasing a man chick, and then Elizabeth is like, I don't need a man, but I need a man. And Mary is just like, I'm smart. What do you think about that? And Jane is like, yeah, you're pretty though. And then you have Kitty who's just like, who are you? Right? Because I'm off topic, like desperately way off topic. Back to what I was saying. What was I saying? The whole idea of Pride and Prejudice, it rubs me a little wrong, okay? When I first watched this, I admit, I was a senior in high school when I watched Pride and Prejudice and read the book. And I admit I was a bit of a pick-me in that time, okay? So that's why I went back, and I was just like, maybe it was probably me. No, I still didn't enjoy the film or the book that much, even as I went back, you know? It was just like, okay, so senior old me was not being that much of a pick-me in that moment, even though she was one, you know? So let's get into the characters. I already said a bit. Mr. Darcy, he's proud. He loves his status. But he's a nice person at the end of the day. And he really cares about the people who are around him. And he wants the people who are around him to care equally about him. Which is why he doesn't like, I would say, Elizabeth that much. Because he thinks that she's just out there for money. Which she's not. Like, Elizabeth likes money. But she's not in love with money. Okay? And then, obviously, you have Elizabeth. Elizabeth is equally proud as Mr. Darcy. Like, that's something that I think that some people miss. When I was watching certain things, they were like, Elizabeth, she's so down to earth. She's like, she's an everyday woman. I'm like, I don't think that most people are that proud on a daily. And like, and that's me. I'm like, I don't think that most people are that proud. And hopefully, most people are not that prejudiced. Elizabeth is prejudiced the moment she sees people. Like, you walk into the room, quite literally, read the book, okay? You walk into the room and Elizabeth's like, oh. Well, I already know that I'm not going to like you because you're rich. Okay, it's like, you're a male, you're female, whatever. And it's like, oh, you're rich. You know? That's Elizabeth. Elizabeth is very much swayed by outward appearances, which is something that we see when we look at her when she goes to like the manor, Mr. Darcy's like house or whatever. I forget what it's called. I don't really care what it's called. You should go visit it if you're like really, really desperate. I don't care. Anyway, like and then there's like that whole little metaphor. It's like, oh, I wouldn't mind being Miss Darcy in this manner or whatever. But I mean, it was like two, like both because it was like replying to the house and also Mr. Darcy at the same time. Go look up an analyzing video on the grammar and the wording used in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I'm not the one. Nice seeing you. Lovely. Love you. Bye. Anyway, you know, and it's like, again, there's that weird scene when she's looking at like the statue in the movie. That one always weirded me out because I'm like, who? Am I the problem? Do other people think this is sexy? Anyway, you know, so she is just as proud and just as prejudiced as Mr. Darcy, and they both go on a little life-changing, well, not little, a literal, very large, life-changing adventure of learning the flaws in their own characters. Not every character, however, learns the flaw in their own character. For instance, Lydia. Oh! Lydia, you're so cute. She's so cute, okay? Ooh. Resume. Okay. Lydia. She's a girl who loves men. And fair enough. But at an unhealthy level. This girl is 15, 16 going into this film. And she's over there like, yeah, I'm getting a husband. I'm like, whoa! I was a senior in college when not senior in college, senior in high school when I read this. I was like, okay, what are you getting a 15? 15? You're chasing grown men in their 20s and 30s? Now, excuse me. I know this is set in a different time. And I know that people got married at different ages back then. But before you say that, I'm reading this in the modern day, okay? So I cannot help but have a modern day take on this part in the film. I was not impressed. Let me repeat that one more time. Not impressed, okay? And I was honestly disgusted. She is babied by her mother, overlooked by her father. I'll get into them later. And people are just like, oh yeah, Lydia, she's stupid, but what can you do? She didn't really know better. But she didn't. She was a literal child trying to act like a woman who had developed all of her senses. You can't expect them to act the same because they won't. They won't. Okay? They won't. So, and then you have Mary who thinks she's smart. I would say she is smart, but she thinks she's like a super genius and she wants to be seen as a super genius. So once again, she is another person who is super prideful. And she has that whole spiel at the whatever that one point is where she's like, being proud is not the same as being vain, because being vain is blah, 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 blah. You know, her whole little spiel. Go read it for yourself. I'm not quoting the film for you, or the movie. But at the same time, she's like being vain and proud in that exact moment. And I think that if anybody is the most realistic, it would be her. I'm changing my mind. Maybe not. Mary is seen as like, she's overlooked. She's like the black sheep in the family, the society, the proverbial middle child. She is literally the middle child. She's just there because she is. And it's like, oh, well, I like to read the Bible. I am religious, and I do like music and reading and stuff like that, but I don't prefer shopping. She's like, I'm the different one. And because she's different, we kind of overlook her because she's not out here chasing men like her younger sister, desperately avoiding marriage like her older sister, or wanting to be married to the guy she likes, but the guy she likes is being persuaded by everybody else around him that she's not worth it, like her other older sister. She's normal. Hey, my opinion, she's normal. Okay, that's all I would say. Like, she's normal. Most women don't do stuff like that. You know? It might just be me. Is it just me? And most women like Elizabeth Bennet, but I'm more like Mary Bennet, and that's why I don't like it. Do I think I'm a super genius? We're gonna have to delve into that later. Anyway, and then you have Jane. Jane's there, in my opinion. You know, she's there. She's the older sister that you need, the comfort, the helpful, the nice, the pretty, the perfect older sibling that everybody's family has if you're not a single kid. But that's it, really. That's like her whole dynamic. She's just like, I love everyone. And everyone really likes me as well. Most of the time. And I'm really nice. And I'm really pretty. And she's, you know, like that's really her, in my opinion. That's like how I view her. And then you have Kitty. And Kitty's not really a character. Kitty's just Kitty. Hidden in a shadow behind her younger sister, who is obsessed with men, but she wants to be obsessed with men. She's kind of not a nice person at all. And if anybody's the worst sibling, it would be Kitty, because she has a big attitude and she's not willing to stand up for herself, and she's just like there, but she's not helpful. And she could have told her sisters, like, Lydia, don't go down this path, but she didn't, because she just idolizes the way Lydia works, which makes her equally as bad, because nobody should idolize Lydia. So, there's the 5 Bennet sisters in a nutshell. Now, let's talk about the parents. The dad is neglectful. He's just there as well. He doesn't care about the plight of his daughters or his wife after he dies, because it does not apply to him. It's like, oh, we'll lose the house. I made bad financial decisions. Kept popping out kids when I wasn't having a son. And you guys are going to be poor when I die? Oh well. Not my problem. You know, it's like, what? Whoa, okay, why keep falling down? But it's like, oh, okay. He's not really there. He's super sarcastic. He's not helpful, and he doesn't try to help Lydia go on the right path. The only time they're concerned about Lydia is when she goes off and tries to, like, get with Wickham and ruins the family name. And they're like, oh snap, the family name's ruined. I'm sorry, Lydia, are you okay? Girl, what happened? Why did you do this? Let's talk about this. I mean, they didn't do that in that time, but, you know, would have been nice. Anyway, yeah, Miss Bennet I think that a lot of people look at her as a villain in the story. I don't think she's a villain. I think that she's a mother who's desperate to have her children in a safe and stable environment when her husband dies. Because the moment that he dies, her children are doomed, basically, if they don't have that. And they will end up on the street with a couple pennies to their name every year. If that happens, and then they might be just lost to society. She desperately doesn't want that to happen. She sees herself in all of her children, is what I would believe. She sees herself in all of her children. Because all of her children came from her, and they are all not victims, but they're all products of her and her husband, who we just talked about, and how he's neglectful, you know. So she has been the driving force, I would say, behind this family for a long time. And that's why she is so caring towards Lydia, is because Lydia is somewhat like her in that way, and wants desperately to appease her mother by getting a marriage, but her mother is still really focused on the older sisters, and it's I pity Miss Bennet. Like, if I was to pity one character the most, it would be Miss Bennet. She did not sign up for this. Women weren't treated well in this time. They had no rights in this time. They couldn't own land in this time. It's like being a woman was one of the hardest things you could do in this time, because it's like, even a poor peasant boy, if he saved up the money, could own land. But Miss Bennet, who came from pretty good money, you know, whose family wasn't bad off, whose family was pretty well off, she would be left destitute the moment her husband died, simply because of the fact that they made bad financial decisions and they never had a son. Both of which she probably had no control over, because of course she had no control over the finances, and gender's not determined by the woman. Whoa, that's like crazy. Fun fact in biology from me. Anyway, so I think that she just desperately wanted her children to be in a safe and loving environment, and that is it. Wickham is the scum of the earth. He's disgusting. He's horrible. He disgusts me. I absolutely hate the fact that everybody was like, and then there's Wickham, I guess, you know. Lydia stole Wickham from Eliza. Not Eliza. What? I keep saying Eliza. From is Elizabeth, and it's like, yeah, but that's it. It's not like, who cares, you know? And then she screwed herself because that's what she deserved. It's like, no. And then he gets a lot of money just because. It's like, oh, okay. You know, I don't really enjoy any of the film. Oh, Charlotte, the best friend. I want to talk to you about the best friend as well. And little man that Mr. Collins. And he's like, what a lovely potatoes. Gets me every time. Anyway, okay, this is so annoying. So, what's her name? Charlotte reminds me of a jealous best friend. The one who's like, I just adore you, and I love the fact that you're doing so well for yourself, and then the next thing you know, they go and do the exact same thing and try to do it like 10 times better so they can say, I was just better at it. But you're good. You are so good at what you do, girl. That's what she reminds me of. She reminds me of the two-faced best friend who wants what you have, basically. And I really didn't like it, obviously. She literally marries the man who's going to take her best friend's house, and she's like, ew, you disgust me, honestly. You do. You disgust me, honestly, because who does that? Who goes and tries to marry the man who's going to take her best friend's house, when you know that he's going to take your best friend's house? She's a man who likes position, and she wanted to be better than Elizabeth at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, she doesn't end up better than Elizabeth because she marries Mr. Collins, who gets their house, and Elizabeth marries Mr. Darcy, who's a multi-millionaire in modern terms. And then you have Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins, who's obsessed with, he's super vain. You know, go back to when Mary was talking about people who are vain and people who are proud. Mr. Collins is both of those combined. Like he's the perfect representation of somebody who is obsessed with outward appearances and wants to be the cream of the crop and wants to have somebody who is super beautiful and lovely on his side, because that obviously makes him the best person ever if his wife is super beautiful, you know, and who won't even pay attention to his wife probably after they get married, because anyway, that's Mr. Collins. Hate him. So what's my opinion? Why is it that I think I missed the plot on this particular movie? I would say, or not particular movie, this particular book and its adaptations and sequels and runoffs. I am going to get on the internet and search for a book that goes into Mary Streamwood, because she's the most interesting character out of the whole thing for me. You know, like, they have made modern renditions of this story 3,000 times over. You can find a different version of Pride and Prejudice on every single streaming platform that you can think of, even if they don't outright say that this is an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Okay? I want to find more. Like, I want to see if some author went into Mary's story and was just like, let's break down her character from the moment the book starts in Pride and Prejudice to even after the book ends, because like we don't get any chance to recognize her. And I feel like now that I've thought about it as I was yapping, yeah, I really do love her character a lot. Well, I don't love her character that much. I'm not that much of an introvert. I am a huge extrovert. So I would say my character is as extroverted as Lydia, as sarcastic and horrible as Elizabeth. I am not mild-mannered at all. I have no connection whatsoever to Jane. I am as stupidly obsessed with things nobody else is obsessed with, like Mary, and kind of just go with the flow and follow what everybody else does, like Kitty, you know. So I would say that that's why I connect probably more with Mary, and also I'm a middle child. Yeah. So you know, there's a lot of things that I think about when I'm examining their characters. I think the thing that caused me to lose interest in this is, one, it's a period piece. I'm not the biggest fan of period pieces. They just don't interest me that much. I wasn't. It doesn't, like, the world doesn't capture me. It's like, oh, you know, when I read something or when I watch something, I want to feel like I know this world, and I don't when I read and watch movies like that. Like, those feel like in a whole nother universe, and I will never even understand anything about it, so it doesn't really matter to me. Second, the characters, I connect with them on a certain level, but on the other level, I don't feel like they show me too much. It's like, I like how Jane Austen didn't go into a lot of personal, like, character details, but at the same time, I wish she would have. That way, you know, I could at least imagine these characters better, you know? It's like, oh, what do you mean?
You go into a lot of character over a bonnet because Lydia made a stupid decision and bought a bonnet, you know, that was horribly ugly just because it was horribly ugly and she decided she wanted to buy it. But you didn't bother to tell me more about one of the sisters simply because she's an oddball. It's like, what? You know? Or the main character dude is another cliche rich man who's brooding and like dark. It's like, oh my gosh. And the female lead is like, I'm super smart and I don't think that I should have to marry a rich man. Well, she wants to marry a rich man, but I don't think I should have to marry anybody just because I want to marry for love, you know. It's like, oh, I'm so quirky and different, you know. It's like giving pick-me energy for me personally. And I say that because I was a pick-me. I was way back in high school. I really thought I was standing out in that time. I was not. But and then you have the parents. I don't connect with the parents at all. I can understand where they're. No, I don't understand where the father's coming from. He's just scum. But the mother, I can understand where she's coming from. Wickham, the antagonist of the field, is of the work, is just a selfish guy who wants a rich girl to marry him so that he can have a lot of money and be seen in a better light. Going back to that ideal of vanity and proudness that Mary talks about. And so I just never connected with the film. I just couldn't sit there and be like, yeah, this is the one for me. It's like, it wasn't. Sadly, it wasn't. So, yeah, I would say that. And now going into a very brief breakdown of what I think the main idea and theme of this book really is. Obviously, as I said before, I think that this is a sarcastic. What am I saying? This book is written, in my opinion, from a sarcastic perspective. It is slightly making fun of what we have or what they had at that time deemed as proper things in society. Because even at the end of the day, almost everybody got what they wanted. You know? Like, as horrible as it is, everybody got what they wanted. Except for, we don't even know what Mary wanted, because her character doesn't go anything. Miss Darcy gets her children married off except for Mary to rich guys or Lydia, who's just screwed for life. Mr. Darcy continues on with his I'm not Mr. Darcy. Miss Bennet. Did I say Miss Bennet? What did I say? Miss Bennet, you know, her daughters get married off. Mr. Bennet, he's content with not caring about anything as always. Mr. Collins gets the house that he wanted, a pretty chick on his side, and whatever. Charlotte, she gets the house that her best friend used to live in, but is that really her best friend anymore? I don't know. You know, that's weird. Mr. Bennet and Elizabeth, oh my gosh, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, they end up together, they end up happy, but they both are super rich at the end of the day now, and she married up, like big time, and it's like, so what's the point? You married for love, right? Like, that's the thing that made me question. It's like, did she marry for love at the end of the day? Miss Jane married for love. Whatever her guy that she married, I forgot his name, don't really care. Like, he was obviously obsessed with her. That's great. Hope it stays that way. But I mean, the book ended before we can even get into the reality of it all, you know. So this is a satirical writing, in my opinion, on what society thinks about people who want to think differently, or go on a different path, or be a little different, you know. I think
when I look at this book in relation to Jane Austen herself, I feel like she's kind of making fun of everything because she reminds me of Mary. She does. Like when you like, she was the one who was left at her house once her father died. Like, who traveled around and had to make sure, because she was a spinster. She was Mary in its flesh, and everybody else was all of the other characters. But she was the one who was forgotten and left in the background, who nobody cares about because she's not pretty enough. She's not outgoing enough. She's not rebellious enough. She's not all those enough. And I'm like, why? And I think that's why I don't like the book. At the end of the day, it comes down to one simple fact. I don't like sarcasm that reflects me very much. Okay. I think the issue for me personally was the fact that I saw too much of myself in the book. So I decided to not like it because I don't like to see too much of myself in the book. And I think that's another thing that's like everybody else. We see ourselves so much in this book and in the characters that we desperately want to be the ones who are outgoing and get the guy. You know, we want to get the guy who's going to save us from poverty and be super in love with us and like brooding at the same time and like whatever, and who's a rich best friend who's gonna marry our sister or our best friend or whatever. And we want to get rid of the two-faced people in our lives because they're just out there for money and whatever, and we want to be separated from toxic people in our family, and they can go screw themselves in wherever they land in. It's like we desperately want to be like Elizabeth Bennet, the outgoing, the beautiful, the pretty, the makes the room stop when she walks in person. But in reality, we aren't all like that. And it's like the world wouldn't be interesting if we were all like that. This reminds me of my previous video about Wicked. It's a satirical take on society and how flawed it is when you actually look at the fact that people are all obsessed with being like one character when we aren't. We aren't, and we never will be like one character. I was interrupted. I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh, yes. This reminds me a lot about Wicked and what I thought that play and books represented in society. So, what's at the end of the day? Why is it that we love Pride and Prejudice? I would say it's because we want to all end up like the heroines in this film and in the books and whatever. We want to be the ones who make it out. We want to be independent. We want to be smart. We want to be like on top of the world and whatever. And we still want to get the man who's at the top of the societal ladder. You know, it's like you want everything in a bag of chips, you know? So, but that's not possible. That's not reality. For few special people, it is reality, you know? Like, they really do get everything in the bag of chips, but for most of us, we don't. We will forever be the Marys in society. We will forever be, some of us will be the Lydias in society. Some of us will be the Kitties in society. The Janes who are really pretty, really out there, you know, but not outgoing enough to be Elizabeth, and most of us won't be Elizabeth, but we want to be her. We do. Now let's talk about costuming. Now, in the book, we don't get that much details on what they look like. Besides for like people like Lydia Wickham, we know he's a soldier, whatever. Darcy, we know he's dressed as well because he is super rich, whatever. But everybody else is kind of just like, she's pretty. She's prettier. She's plain. She's pretty. She's fine. It's like that's what we know from the characters. He's old. She's old. He's kind of pudgy and round. I'm like, oh, okay. Like that. And I think that's brilliant, actually, on a part, because now you can't compare yourself to Elizabeth. As much as going back to like the fact that we want to be like Elizabeth, you can't compare yourself to her because you don't even know what she would actually look like. Beauty standards are ever changing, and I think that the fact that she didn't add that in kind of is a blessing and a curse, because now we change Elizabeth to look like whatever beauty standard is popular in this moment, but not the beauty standard she was actually based off of, most likely. It's like and it's like, what? Anyway, why are we obsessed with Pride and Prejudice? I can't even tell you why, honestly. There's a lot of reasons why. At the end of the day, and I think I've said this about 8 times at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, we love it because we know we will never achieve it. So we live out our fantasies through these words and the books and the movies and whatever. And the characters are so well written and so in depth that we feel like we're reading about our third cousin twice removed, or we're reading about the girl who we grew up with in elementary. Oh yeah, she's the girl from the town over. Everybody knows who she is. We all know Elizabeth. We all know her. But at the same time, we all want to be her at the same time. It's like we're the jealous Lydia in society. We are the kiddies who are just following around the Lydias. We are the Marys who are too shy to put themselves out there, but also very proud and very vain. We are the Elizabeths who are outgoing and want the very best for the people in our family, but at the same time, we don't want to conform to all things that society says is what we have to. And we are Janes, who are loving and caring and mild-mannered and okay. We are all of these characters in a nutshell. And squabbled up. I think that's what Jane Austen took herself and split her into 5 sisters. And she made those sisters and have a story. And she gave those 5 sisters a world to live in. And she was like, pick your poison. And society fell in love with it. Yeah. So, how's your day going? Pretty good on my side. Pretty good. You can leave now.